Greetings and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about running a freight train at 50 miles an hour when you find out that the train brakes aren't working. So it was back on Conrail in the 1980s, one dark night when the conductor and I were called to recrew a train and run it from Newark, New Jersey to Philadelphia. When we arrived at the train, which was located at it was sitting at the stock switches on the P&H branch adjacent to Oak Island Yard in Newark, New Jersey. The inbound crew was gone. They had already been transported to a hotel. So we got on the engines and we found the paperwork indicating that there were about 100 cars and no caboose. There was an NC marker, non-communicating marker, on the rear end. There was also an air slip on the control stand that said the brakes were okay. So according to Conrail air brake rules, we were in compliance and we were okay to go. So we proceeded up the Lehigh line on our way, and we passed an opposing train, and the other train told us that our train looked good. And so we continued, and we had railroad all the way to Port Reading Junction, where there was a medium clear, because we were diverting to the Trenton line. We had to slow down for the medium clear and the interlocking, and so I made a brake application with the train brake, and I could tell right away that we had a problem. The train brake exhaust was very short. I could tell we didn't have many cars of air, and indeed the train was not slowing down. As a reflex action, I put the train in emergency, and which meant that we didn't have dynamic braking on the locomotives. So we were left with only the brakes on the locomotives and whatever train brakes were working to slow us down. So we went through that interlocking at a pretty good clip, and we kind of gave it a stress test. It passed. And we slowly got stopped when we cleared the interlocking and we were starting the uphill at Manville. The uphill helped us get stopped. We got stopped. I reported to the train dispatcher what the story was, and the conductor started back. He started walking the train. He found the first turned angle cock on the 11th head car, which means we only had 11 cars of brakes. And he continued toward the hind end. He found about 12 angle cocks turned, and he restored them all to open position, and he got air to the hind end, and he did a brake test on the rear car, and he returned to the engines, and we proceeded on our way, and we had no other incidents. Now, that train, I resolved right then and there that I would never take another train with an NC marker without doing a brake test on the rear car. The inbound crew on that train, before they got to Newark, they passed through Weehawken, New Jersey, and that was a trouble spot for trespassers and juvenile delinquents who would do their best to try to stop a train. I don't want to go into detail about how they would do that because I don't want to encourage any more of that type of behavior, but once in a while they got a train stopped, and when they did, they would swarm it like a human wave assault, and they would vandalize the train, turn angle cocks, and they would break into cars and steal merchandise. And the Conrail police only had a couple of police officers that they could spare to protect trains in Weehawken. So the police did their best, but sometimes it wasn't enough. Now, when you have a train, a freight train, and you turn an angle cock somewhere in that train, the brakes will come on behind that turned angle cock. And in a few minutes, they'll come on. And it's because the air from the locomotives is what's keeping the brakes released. And without that air, the brakes will apply. However, in a matter of time, and we're talking hours, those brakes that have applied after the angle cock was turned, they will bleed off and release. So I don't know how long our train had sat at stock switches, but it was certainly, there was certainly no train brakes applied on that train when we took over. That opposing train we passed said our train looked good. He didn't see any brake smoking, and the train was rolling free, was rolling good, like it had air through the whole train. So it was a wild night, and one that I hope will never happen again. It was the material for nightmares. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story, and put some sand down.